We've been talking a lot about tracing, but each time it was to debug something very specific, like individual database queries or issues happening in microservices or slow external API requests. But this time, I want to show you how you can use tracing in combination with errors and custom metrics in order to gain a more top-level insights into critical experiences or critical user flows in your application. Let me show it to you. Here's the application that I'm going to use. It's a simple e-commerce website where you can pick some products, add them to the cart. And let's add these 3 items to the cart. Go ahead and do a simple checkout. So just like any e-commerce website. But the critical flow is that I want to look into is how fast the product details page loads, because if it's too slow, the users are not going to spend time or money on my website. That is one point. Another point can be how many items in quantity are being added to the cart, and let's say how many of the checkouts are being successful, or even how many items are in the cart at the time of a checkout. So that is the flow that we are going to monitor, and because I have Sentry's SDK installed, I get automatic performance data for all of the pages and the page loads. But I also have some custom instrumentation that looks like this. So for example, when we press the Add to Cart button, I start a new span with the name Add to Cart, and it's not just a single button click, it's not tracking just a single button click, it's actually tracking the product ID, the size, the color, the quantity, etc. So each time a user presses that button, I am sending a span with these data points to Sentry. And the beauty is that I can reference these later. So let's see how that looks like. Here's how my dashboard looks like for tracking that critical experience in Sentry. And we can see 4 widgets right here. The first one is the product details page load, and this widget tells me how fast the product details page loaded, and we have 2 values, the P75 and the P95. If we look into the widget, we'll see that it's using the spans dataset, it's aligned. We have 2 series for visualization, that is the P75 and P95, and the filter is that the operation is a page load or a navigation, and the description is products/something. That is the products details page. Then we have another widget right here, which is the product details versus checkout. So this tells me how many visits there are on the product details, which is the blue line, and the checkout page, which is the yellow line. And we can see at this point that the checkout line drops to 0 while the product details remain at a certain value. So something happened in this area right here that we need to check out. Then we have another widget, which is the items added to the cart. And we can see that it is summing up all of the quantities that are being appended. And this is that span right here. If we look into the dashboard, we can see that it's using the spans dataset. It is an area chart. The filter is the span description must match add to cart. And for visualization, we are summing up all of the quantities that are being reported. So that means these are the quantities that the users are adding to their carts all across the world. Okay? And we can see that similarly to this widget, they too drop to 0 at a certain point. And lastly, we have the errors in product details widget. And this is not spans, this is not tracing, this is just errors. The number of errors that happen on this page, the product details page. So if you look at the widget, we're going to see that we're using the errors dataset. It's a line chart. We just want to count the number of errors, and we have 2 filters. One is the front-end project or the ecom issues React project, and the URL is on the product/something page. And the other one is the e-commerce issues Laravel, which is the backend project, and it's on the same page. Additionally, I want to group these issues by the issue and by the title. So if we look at the widget, we can see that there are some issues happening in the type of the issues as well. So the thing that I want to show you is how you can use these widgets to look at the correlation between performance data like the top widget, the product details page load, versus some custom metrics like the number of items added to the cart, and even errors that happen on a specific page and how they correlate to each other. So if our sales tanked, and we can see that they are pretty much tanking indirectly here because people are not adding items to the cart, we can't attribute that to the performance of the page because the performance stays pretty consistent looking at the P75 value. So it's not because of a performance issue, it is definitely because of an error that is happening on that page. And if you want to look at the error at that time, we can just click and drag to zoom into that period and click on this button right here to look at a list of all of the errors that are happening on that page in that specific time. And we can see that there's 18 occurrences of the selected size is not available for this product. What this tells me is that we probably pushed a release that contained a bug that allowed the users either to select unavailable sizes that maybe were available at some point, but now they're not, and the users are attempting to purchase items with those sizes, or we're not handling the value of the sizes correctly. So regardless of what the users are selecting, we're probably not sending the correct values. But now I know why our sales are tanking is because of this error. So I can just go ahead and debug this further and push a fix to production. If this issue was performance related, we could get into the product details page load, open it in Explore and look at some trace samples to figure out where that slowdown is happening. Whether if it's a navigation or maybe there was an API call that is attempting to fetch some product details and that one took too long, etc. Now, in a similar fashion, you can go ahead and instrument these critical moments in your application. And if there are a lot, you might end up with something that looks like this. A more complex example of an e-commerce website that traces or monitors the flow of going to the products page, moving to the cart page, to the checkout page, and at the end, whether if it's a successful or not, the checkout. This project has a lot more data. We can see the number of items added to the cart is larger. There are some holes in here. We can always, as I mentioned, we can zoom in, make a cut in that specific area and look why the items are not being added to the cart. So while everything is falling down, this line right here is raising up. So maybe this is the issue. We can always look into what is happening in this transaction right here. And yeah, that's what I wanted to show you, how you can use tracing in combination with other types of data to debug longer flows or entire flows in your application and see why the users have stopped doing something or started doing something else. So I hope you like this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.